up, guys, and welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, thank you for clicking on this video. I am so excited that you're here. If you like what you see, please consider liking and subscribing and stick around to see more content from me. I post new videos every Wednesday, sometimes Thursday, this last week, Friday, because I got my dates mixed up. But yeah, usually Wednesday. If you are returning, welcome back. It's so good to see you again. I hope you're doing awesome. That sounded a lot like Curtis Connor. That is not what I was going for. But anyway, oh boy. Oh my God. It's been a day, you guys. I don't know if I'm allowed to drink on screen, but I have got my beer right here, just off camera, because I have been trying to go live on Facebook and it wasn't working. Oh, and it was really frustrating. I had an event that had like over 50 respondents and nobody showed up. And I think it was Facebook's fault. And then, whatever. For whatever reason, it didn't work and it was really depressing. So now I'm filming this, hooray. This week, we're doing something a little different. So you guys might be aware that I come from the land of TikTok, and on there, we often reply to comments on our page through video. That's what I'm used to, and that's what I'm gonna do, because today I'm gonna be responding to this novel of a comment. So this comment was left on my internalized misogyny video. So if you haven't seen that, I'll link it in the end card and also in the description so you can go and watch it if you haven't yet. I got this comment on that video and it is way too long to respond to in another comment. So I am going to respond here in this video, and yeah, let's just get into it. I came here because a feminist told me I have internalized misogyny and I want to learn what it is. To start off, I appreciate the kind tone in your video, although I do disagree with many of your perspectives. That's okay, it's all right to disagree. Regarding the first video, women are not above criticism. Never said they weren't. Some are weak, some are strong. We are only holding ourselves back if we pretend that isn't true. Okay, so we're gonna go through this paragraph by paragraph because there's a lot. So I get a lot of comments on my TikTok videos when I call out toxic masculinity from men who like to remind me that, hey, women can be toxic too. Yeah, I know. Duh, I grew up one. I know. So you don't need to remind me. I thought I explained it, but here's a little bit more about the issue that I had with the first clip that I showed in that original video. The poster of the original TikTok was not talking about women being toxic. What she was doing was blaming other women for the behaviors of men. So in that video, she's calling out weak women who will run to a man, and essentially that's what she blames cheating on, because there are women out there who will be happy enough just having anything they can get, as opposed to those of us who have standards. So if we didn't have those women, men would have more integrity?
Girl, don't do it.
And that's just not how it works. The issue at hand is that if a man is not strong enough to deal with a strong-willed woman, that he then goes and finds a woman who is going to be weaker-willed and more submissive to him, that's on him. That's not on her. And this goes both ways. This is true of both sexes, that when somebody cheats, it is not about the person that they're with, and it's not about the person that they are cheating with. It's about them. It's their problem. It's their unresolved issues or trauma that they haven't worked through yet. So if a man is intimidated enough by the woman that he's dating to go and then seek attention from another woman, that's not her fault. That's his fault. He's the one who cheated. And also, if a man is that weak-willed, why would you want to be with him? Let her have him. Good riddance. Go find yourself a man who can stand with a strong woman like you. That's what you deserve. So why are you putting up with weak-willed men? So that was the issue. Placing the blame entirely on the woman and none of it on the man. That's internalized misogyny. Because it takes two to tango, and there are two people in a relationship. So if your partner is willing to cheat, they're gonna do it. It doesn't matter with who. I hope that explains a little bit better for you. All right, let's move into the next part. In the second video, I fully agree modern feminism is not about equality. When the women's movement joined with the sexual revolution, that's when all our modern feminist issues stemmed. You also proved her point right about supporting all women unless she disagrees with you. You also seem upset she is overgeneralizing leftist feminists, yet you simultaneously generalize conservative women's views. Both sides have those who fit the assumptions and stereotypes, and both sides have outliers who are much better than the stereotype. Okay. Part of feminism and achieving equality is changing the attitudes around women and sex, about making it okay for women to have full control of their sexuality and their bodies. That's just part of it. Historically, men have never dealt with the types of vitriol that we put on women about being sexual creatures. We're human. We're descended from apes. We're animals. We have needs and instincts. And the fact that women are historically the ones that have to stay pure and preserve their virginity, and we shame them, even if we suspect that they don't. That's why we need sexual freedom, because men have never had that imposed on them. And as long as that split exists, we'll never have equality. That's just the truth. And if you don't see that, then yeah, that might be a little bit of internalized misogyny that you should look at. Why do you feel shameful about sex? Sex is a natural function of being human, and it's part of how we connect to romantic interests. It's also really fun, and it feels really good. So why would we want to deprive ourselves of that? A lot of the shame and the stigma around sex, especially involving female sexuality, comes from Christian philosophy and its influence in our culture and our way of life. And not all of us are Christian. Not all of us are religious in any way. So those kinds of attitudes that stem from religious belief, I'm not about that. Don't impose your morality onto me. That's all I was saying. And segueing into the next part of your comment, what I'm upset about in the second clip is not that she has a different opinion. Like I said in my video that you commented on, you're welcome to have a differing opinion. I have no control, nor do I want to have control over the opinions that you hold. And if you think that, you know, one partner and your body is sacred and you should only have very few, if not just one sex partner, and you don't want to get abortion and you think you should dress modestly, that's fine. That is fine for you. You are more than welcome to do that. And you're more than welcome to, you know, encourage people to abide by that, I guess, if you find that the moral thing to do. But don't impose it on us. Those of us who don't believe the same way you do and don't agree with that style of morality, it's not up to you to dictate our lives. And that was my problem with what she was saying about feminism. So if you go on this woman's TikTok, all she talks about is taking away the right to choose and forcing women to behave in certain ways that are acceptable within her paradigm and worldview under like modesty and Christianity and stuff. So that's what I disagree with. And like I said, she can disagree with me all she wants. I don't mind that. I am not trying to impose my morality on other people. I am just trying to expand the definitions of what's acceptable within society so that people who don't agree with a certain way of living are not punished for it. Does that make sense? Moving on. Also, the conservative pro-life feminists and anti-feminists also support women choosing their own way in life, whether it be a career or a homemaker. So those are the only two options I have. All right. Most just don't include transgender women in feminism because it takes away from the struggles and achievements of actual women. Trans women do not experience womanhood the same as cis women, obviously. For instance, a major goal of the women's movement was to ban the practice of firing women for being pregnant. Trans can start their own trans women's movement. Whew. Okay, where to start? I disagree with you that conservative, pro-life, anti-feminists support women choosing their own way in life, because part of that is allowing women the access to choose what to do with their own bodies. Whether they, become pregnant too early, whether they can't afford to have a kid, whether they are sexually assaulted, whether they are impregnated by a family member as a product of incest, whatever the case may be, it is none of my business. It's none of anybody else's business. It's between that woman and her doctor. And whatever choice she comes to that is the best for her life moving forward, that's what I want for her. And anti-feminists, pro-life ones especially, seek to take that away. And that's where I have a problem with it. Like I said, I don't mind people having different views. That's not the issue. The issue is when you try to impose those views and that frame of morality onto the rest of us who don't agree. When the choice is between a woman and her doctor, it literally doesn't affect you at all. But when you are trying to take away that choice, it affects a lot of people. That's the difference. All right. And then the transgender thing, that's just transphobic. Plain and simple. What you said is transphobic. Trans women are women. Yes, they have a different female experience than cis women. Nobody is saying that they don't. But trans women are women and they belong in the women's movement. Plain and simple. The issue that I have with anti-trans feminists or TERFs or whatever you want to call them is when it comes down to it, they don't want to include trans people at all. Trans people are not people in that trans women don't belong in the women's movement. Okay. If you press them about it, some of them will say, yeah, but trans men are different. Trans men are okay. We can allow some room for trans men. But when it comes down to it, you won't. You just won't. It doesn't work. You don't see them as women either because they're not. They're men. But trans men can get pregnant. Trans men have periods. Trans men grew up with the female experience like you're talking about. So where do they go? If they're not accepted in the women's movement, they're not accepted in the men's movement. Same with trans women. Trans women are not accepted in the women's movement. Trans women are not accepted within men's group, obviously, because they're women. Where do they go? This is the whole thing about making feminism more inclusive, and that women of color have been telling us for a very long time, which is traditionally feminism from its early inception has been focused on the white cis woman's experience. And it hasn't left a lot of room for anyone else. So women of color have been left out. And now that women of color are being more accepted into the movement, because obviously they should be, now you guys are finding a different group to marginalize. I have some trans friends and I follow a lot of trans creators. I love trans people. I think they are awesome human beings and they deserve a place within the gender identity that they are. When we tell trans women they're not women and we don't let them in, where are they gonna go to the bathroom? Men's bathrooms? I thought you guys said that men assault women in bathrooms. So you don't think that they would assault trans women in the bathroom? Or do you just not care? Where are we gonna put them if they get arrested? In a men's prison? Is that a good idea? So when it comes to violence against transgender people, half of all transgender people have reported being sexually or physically assaulted in their life. Half. And the number is actually probably a lot higher. Those are only the ones that we know about. That's a lot higher than the stat among cis women, which is also not entirely accurate, but some sources say 1 in 3 and some say 1 in 5. And trans women are 3 times as likely as cis women to be fatally assaulted by their partners. So, some food for thought. So would you put trans women in a position where they could very, very likely be assaulted or killed? That's not okay with me. And the same goes for transgender men. Transgender men are also much more likely than cisgender women to be physically or fatally assaulted just because of who they are. And it's just transphobic. So, and this goes back to the whole argument against intersectionality, right? We shouldn't allow marginalized groups into our movement because they taint the movement, and they should just have their own thing. Black women should just have their own women's movement. Hispanic women should just have their own women's movement. Trans women should just have their own women's movement. No, we're all women. And in order to overcome the oppression that we face from the patriarchy on a daily basis, we have to band together. That's the only way. Plus, if TERFs had their way and bathroom laws were like super effective and you could only use, which I don't know how you would even enforce this, because what are you going to check people's genitals at the door? If you could only use the bathroom that matches with your assigned gender at birth, you would have men in the bathroom because trans men would be required to use the women's bathroom. Like maybe when you think of a trans man, you think of like a very butch lesbian. Trans men are men and they look like men, and because they are men. All the trans men I know would not be welcome in a women's restroom. I have a few trans male friends, and I swear, if my friend Emmett walked into the women's restroom while you were in there, you'd be like, what are you doing? Go to the men's restroom, that's where you belong. Same thing for trans women. More often than not, you would never even know. You could be peeing next to a trans woman right now, and you wouldn't even know about it. Just stop being transphobic. Just stop it. It's not a good look. Next. Also, just because women have justification for hating men, such as having many negative experiences with them, does not make it okay when they say that they hate all men. Of course, something triggered that emotion in them. That doesn't make that attitude okay. Use that logic regarding race. Say many black people were mean to me growing up. Does that make it okay for me to say I hate all black people? Would I have justification? No and no. Okay. So I see this comparison made a lot, and it is not the same. Not the same in the least. So, historically speaking, black people have had a second-class citizenship in this country. And before the 1960s, less than second class. And before the Civil War, even less than that. So that's just racism, and being racist against black people is kind of historically expected if you're white, because that has been historically an accepted viewpoint. Only within the last, I want to say like 60, 70 years, have we started challenging that. That is very recent in human history. That is very recent in the history of America. That's like, I mean, if America has been around for 240 years, that would mean that 2/3 of our history has been subjugating and brutalizing black people. So that's where your comparison fails. Whereas historically, the same has been true of the patriarchy, right? Women have been second-class citizens since almost the beginning of human history. When we say we hate all men, we're punching up. Because it doesn't make a difference, right? Because we don't have any real power against the patriarchy yet. But they definitely do. And they always have. So it doesn't have the same, it's not the same level of comparison as you think it is. Because, and I'm not saying that these two things are the same in any way. They're obviously very different experiences, but historically, it would be more fair to compare the struggle of African Americans in the Americas and the struggle of women throughout time, kind of together, even though they're very different things. But that would be a more fair comparison than the one that you made. What you said was just ignoring and ignorant of all human history, especially the history of slavery. So no, it's not the same. No, it's not okay to hate on anyone. And the reason why women have started saying hate all men or kill all men or whatever you want to say, to be completely honest, I don't say either of those things. I don't hate all men. When we say that, it's more in the line of kind of like the all cops are bad thing, where we know that they're not all bad people. We know that when we say it. What we're talking about is that enough of them are bad that we need to be cautious around all of them and assume that any interactions that we have with a man or a cop, it is not necessarily going to be pleasant. And we need to be on guard for that reason. Otherwise, we could be taken advantage of or worse. And comparing that to the history of Black people in the United States is ludicrous. I don't want to give that any more attention than I already have. And how could someone mind their own business when it comes to abortion? It is the same as infanticide, but when the baby is at a different stage. It is not your body you are killing, it is your child's body. Women get prison time for leaving their newborn infant in a dumpster, yet when the baby is inside the womb, it's fair game. Personal freedom ends when it infringes on the freedom of others. Yes, that last statement I would completely agree with. Personal freedom ends when it infringes on the freedom of others. I like that. Let's just leave it there. Done. You're wrong. So first of all, I believe in science and I lead my life according to science and scientific research. And according to science, we don't know when life begins. At least not the conscious life that we know of as being a human being. We don't know. There's no way to know. But we do know that all cells are alive. So I've stopped arguing that it's a living thing point, because obviously it's a living thing. Your skin is a living thing. Each cell of this is a living thing. Your hair on your head, well, it's actually dead because it's living down here at the root though, and then as it grows out, it dries out and it dies, and that's what causes hair. Every cell in your body is alive. Plants are living things. Amoebas are living things. There are microscopic things in water that are living things that you can't see. Are you just not going to drink water? Are you not going to eat food ever? Like, what would you eat if you couldn't eat a living thing? Because all things are living things until they're not. The question is not whether it's alive or not. The question is, when does it become conscious? And there's just no way to know that. It's definitely not at conception, because the brain doesn't even form until, what is it, like week 12 or something? So how could it be conscious? A fetus is not a baby. It's a combination of cells, sperm cells and egg cell. That's all it is. It's a growing human. It's not a human yet. So I agree with the, I'm a little tipsy. I can't think straight. Sorry. Oh boy, it's been a day. So what I think is the proper guideline that we should follow is when the fetus can survive on its own outside the womb, because until then, it's actually medically considered a parasite, because it is dependent upon the survival of the host in order to live. It can't live on its own. Considering that, what you're basically saying is women are effectively incubators, and we do not have governance of our own body if there is a clump of cells forming in our uterus, which is so disrespectful. I hate this argument so much. Oh God, I hate arguing with pro-lifers. Holy cow. I hate this argument so much, because what you're essentially saying is that the life that is forming and developing and does not have its own agency yet is more important than the fully fleshed, fully grown life that is already standing here. And how that makes any sense is beyond me. And I know a lot of you guys base your entire morality on religion, and most often Christian religion, but the Christian Bible does not mention this at all. If anything, the Bible is pro-abortion, because there are a couple of passages about if your wife gets knocked up by someone outside your household, like from a product of cheating, and she gets pregnant, then you're gonna feed her this potion that's going to cause the uterus to evacuate. And that's a decree, that's like an order from God. So God is a pro-abortion if it's a conception that comes from infidelity. Just FYI. And I know some of these abortion bans want to ban all abortions or ban them after 6 weeks or something. I had a miscarriage at 6 weeks. Do you know what it was? It was a tadpole. It had a tail and little nubbins where the legs and arms would be. It wasn't a person yet. And I was very thankful to not have to make the choice The choice was made for me. At 6 weeks, it's not a person yet. It's not a baby. It can't survive on its own. It needs the mother's body in order to keep developing. That's the difference. So when you're leaving a child in a dumpster, it's not comparable at all. 90% of abortions are done within the first trimester. It's not a baby at that point. And if a woman is not ready or doesn't have the money, because let's be real, it's fucking expensive to have a baby in America, doesn't want to be a single parent, is too young, or was like sexually assaulted, or whatever the circumstance is, it's none of your business. It's between her and her doctor and potentially her partner. That's it. And it doesn't affect you at all. So I don't understand why conservatives care. It doesn't affect them. Plus, you guys like to say that, oh, you could just give it up for adoption. Do you know how many kids we have stuck in the foster system that are never going to be adopted? Do you know how terrible the foster system is? These kids face instability and food insecurity and abuse on the regular. You want to put more children into that? If a child is not wanted, it's not going to have a good experience. Why would you inflict that on someone? But yeah, a fetus is not a baby. Just isn't, plain and simple. And if you want to use the religious argument, the Bible is number 1, pro-abortion, and number 2, does not say that life starts at conception. According to the Bible, life starts when you breathe your first breath. So technically, that would include abortion up to the moment of birth, which is what you guys like to scare and fearmonger about, which doesn't happen, by the way. That's just birth. I'm a little tipsy, so I might not be very delicate with this right now, but I hate arguing this. I just hate it so much. But I'm getting too heated, so moving on. Regarding the third video, I agree with your stance on how we don't owe a creep good manners. I have put myself in dangerous situations from not being assertive enough. I learned that sometimes it takes being a bitch the instant they persist after you tell them not interested. Well, on that we are in agreement. Some guys don't take a hint, and they think that any politeness is an invitation. So when you politely say, oh, no, thank you, they see that as you playing hard to get. And they've been conditioned by society to not take no for an answer, and to go after what they want, and to relentlessly pursue it. So, and one of the main issues that I had with that clip from that creator is that she assumes that we're all just like being a bitch right off the bat. Like, so many times I've been hit on by guys where I've politely let them down and let them know that I'm not interested, only for them to just keep going. And I actually stitched her and made a video in response to this on TikTok, talking about a few experiences that I had where I was listing out a couple of the very toxic men that have just not taken no for an answer in my life. And one of them was a friend who had a crush on me. I only wanted to be friends. I didn't want anything more than that. And he just kept pursuing me. And then it came to the point where he was a little drunk and he made a move and he grabbed me and he kissed me, and it was not okay. Obviously, we weren't friends after that. So what I got out of this is that I am internally misogynistic because I have different opinions. I know I don't hate women, so not sure how I am that. Oh, sweetie. Harboring internalized misogyny is not about overtly hating women. It's like when you are a minority and you harbor internalized racism. It is more subtle and more insidious. And more often than not, it affects your own life and your own happiness more than it projects out onto other people. In the cases of those women whose clips I included in the original video, they take their internalized misogyny out and project it onto other people. So that can happen, but more often than not, it's an attitude that you feel about yourself, and it adjusts your happiness and how you interact in the world with men and with other women. And it's unfortunate. I know I still am working through some of that myself because it's how we're raised in this society. We're all a little misogynistic, to be honest. And it's up to us to recognize when we are being toxic to other women or to ourselves and to make a different choice. You don't have internalized misogyny because you have a different opinion. That's not it. And if you still think that after you watch this video, there's something else going on there. It's not a matter of having a different opinion. It's a matter of how you interact with people and what you project into the world and how that affects the lives of the people around you and your own inner peace, well-being, and happiness. I hope that makes sense. I hope this was a little bit helpful to you, and I am speaking directly to you since I'm making this as a commentary on your comment that you left on my video, but also to anybody out there in the interwebs who may have found some insight in this conversation. I feel like it was a little bit rambling, but that's just because I've had quite the day and I am a little intoxicated, so maybe I'll be a little bit more on my game next week. I am more than happy to continue the conversation. You can find me on TikTok. I am on there almost every day, or just, feel free to leave a comment if you have more to say about this. And I respond to all the comments that are left on my videos. So if you have anything else to say, feel free. My comments are there for you. Maybe you'll have the lucky pleasure of getting a video response too. All right, guys, that's it from me for this week. Oh, I keep forgetting. Look at this cute little guy. Look at him, he's so cute. So this is one of my new merch items, along with a matching little mug. Yeah, I drew him. The shirt comes in multiple different colors, so it doesn't have to just be red. I like the red because it matches the mug. So the link to my shop will be in the description of this video. I've got tons of other great items on there too, if you guys are not a fan of cute, adorable, plushy Satan. And more to come. I'm a designer and that's what I do, so stay tuned. If you like this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you're already a subscriber, then I heart you the most. All right, guys, have a great weekend and I'll see you next time.